Hey guys, the happiness formula. So this is gonna be a really long, in-depth video, FYI, based on some stuff I found out in a book called The Happiness Hypothesis. Super awesome book. Okay, so everybody wants to be happy, everybody wants to live a happy life, but there's a lot of scientific research that's been done that's actually very counterintuitive about what you might think about happiness, okay? So humans are so bad at predicting what their happiness is gonna be based on external things that happen in your life. They're very bad at it. So I'm gonna ask you a question. What do you think would make you happier? Winning the lottery or being paralyzed for the rest of your life? Okay, obviously we all know what the answer is. Duh, everybody wants to win the lottery. That would make everybody so happy. You can quit your basic ass job, go on vacation. Ain't nobody got time to be paralyzed. But actually, okay, what they found is a year later after this event happened, because they did a study, the people who won the lottery and got paralyzed returned back to their baseline level of happiness. So they actually ended up having the same level of happiness that they had before this event occurred, right? So it's as if nothing happened, right? This didn't actually affect their long-term happiness. Okay, so what's going on? Well, what researchers have found is that your average mood level throughout your entire life, they call it a set point happiness, is genetic. You were born with a range set point of happiness. You can operate on the lower end of this range or on the higher end of this range by doing three things. So say you're like, you know, in general, you're in a bad mood. That's a genetic thing, apparently. Or people who are always like happy-go-lucky and just chill and just always, in general, in a positive mood. They kind of won the genetic lottery in terms of mood regulation. But if you didn't, unfortunately, and you want to raise your overall level of happiness, you can. You can either take Prozac, you could drug yourself. Yeah, it's a little bit sketchy, but Prozac actually does change your brain chemistry. It affects your neurotransmitters, and it does work to make people happier. And the next is meditation. What meditation does, they found, is it makes you more empathetic, increases your trust, increases your self-esteem and your memory, but it also makes your overall happiness level, it raises it up. And it does this by making you kind of emotionally non-reactive. So when bad things happen, you're kind of just like, you don't respond as intensely emotionally to things that are happening in your life. That's kind of what meditation does. The last one is called cognitive therapy, and this has been used for like decades now for people who are struggling with depression. And what that is you just reassess your distorted thoughts. So if you're clinically depressed, your thoughts are not logical. They're very distorted. They're very negatively distorted. So you start to assess them and challenge them and then change them. And if you do this on a daily basis, you will change your thought patterns and thus change your emotional state, raise your happiness setback level. That is also a very effective way to affect your mood positively. Now you guys know all about set point. So I'm gonna give you this happiness formula. It's like a mathematical formula. I know, I'm not really into them either, but this is easy to understand, so I'm gonna share it with you guys. H, happiness, equals S, set point, which we discussed, plus V, which is voluntary actions, plus C, which is condition. Okay, so let's talk about condition. Conditions are facts about your life. So your age, your sex, your gender, your race, how much money you make, who you're married to, all of these facts about your life. And apparently conditions are things that people in general, they adapt to them. So remember I was talking about that paraplegic / lottery winner? Those are conditions of people's lives, right? Being paralyzed or being rich as fuck. They are conditions that you get used to and you start to sort of take for granted. So the lottery winners took it for granted and the paralyzed people just like got used to being paralyzed, and it no longer affected their everyday happiness anymore because it kind of blended into their life and they didn't think about it very much anymore. The weather is a condition, believe it or not. You might think, yeah, I'm gonna be so much more happier in Cali because it's always sunny there. Like this winter is so depressing and retarded, but that's not true. People actually get used to to the weather that they are around, and it no longer affects their happiness level. Yeah, pretty crazy. But the author found that there are some conditions that no matter how much you are exposed to them, you will never get used to them, and they will diminish your happiness for the rest of your life. So you seriously need to cut out these conditions that the author lists out of your life totally, because you will never adapt to them. So I'm gonna list them out really quickly for you guys. The first one is noise. Yes, so if you live by a railroad track or a really busy street, highway, get the F away from it, because you will never get used to unpredictable noise in your life, and it is bad for you. Next is commuting. Driving 2 hours a day to and from work. You will never get used to it because traffic is stressful, it raises your cortisol levels, and you will always be unhappy. It's a daily source of unhappiness. Get that out of your life. Do not move to some suburb where you know you're gonna be driving 2 hours a day, every day to work. Don't do it. Next, lack of control. They've done a few experiments. They found that if people are even given a little bit of control over their life, they are a lot more alert and happy and a lot less likely to die. So having a sense of control is really important for your happiness levels. Next is conflict in relationships. You will never adapt or get used to a drama relationship, chronic conflict. You do not want to be a life partner with someone who's causing a bunch of BS drama in your life all the time, because it is a constant source of unhappiness and it's one of the best ways to live a miserable life. Okay. So those are the conditions about your life that you should really pay attention to, and if you have any of them in your lives, seriously consider cutting them out. Voluntary action. So these are choices that you make in your life, in your everyday life, about what you're doing every day that affect your happiness. And what this author found based on research is that there are two main sources of happiness that people have throughout their days. The first one is pleasure. So that's like eating, like having sex, getting a back rub. Physical, and it causes very strong emotional reactions. Okay, so the thing about pleasure is that it is very intense, but it is short-lived and it fades quickly and we forget it right away. The author kind of alluded to the fact that getting all your happiness from pleasure is pretty meaningless. It doesn't really improve you as a person, and it doesn't help you impact other people's lives positively. Okay, so that's when we're gonna move on to the next source of happiness, which he calls gratification. Gratification is when you basically find your life's work, or where you find an activity in your life where you are in a flow state of mind. I'm sure lots of you have heard of this term. When you're in flow, you are doing an activity where you feel challenged and it has your full attention, and you're getting constant feedback, and you feel like you have lost yourself in this activity. You have totally lost your sense of self. You are completely immersed in whatever activity you are doing, and I guarantee you, you have felt flow. Maybe it's not for something like what this author's talking about. He's like, oh yeah, you feel flow when you're doing art, or when you're dancing, or when you're computer programming, or just whatever somebody would be into. Maybe you felt flow gaming. Maybe you felt flow driving your car really fast. It doesn't necessarily have to be these like academic activities. It's really any activity that makes you feel like you've totally just lost yourself. You've lost your sense of time. It's all about you and whatever you are doing. That is flow, and that is a very, very strong source of happiness. It gives you a very deep sense of purpose and of meaning, and usually if people can find a way to channel their flow into making a difference in people's lives and contributing to the world, impacting, making a positive impact, they're usually very, very happy. Like their life is pretty aligned. That is the V part. Also, he mentioned the way you spend your money. He found that people who buy a lot of objects and are very focused on material consumption are actually a lot less happy than people who invest their money in experiences, so trips, concerts, going out, because he said when you spend your money on experience, you are connecting, and he said if you spend your money on objects, you spend money on objects to impress other people and you create a hierarchy, and therefore it actually makes you feel more isolated, actually. So he said it's when you spend money on experiences, it connects, and we spend money on objects, it separates. So keep that in mind as well, right? Like, do you really need the do you really need those shoes, girl? That was just a really brief summary of this happiness formula. It's an entire chapter in the book. The rest of the book is actually pretty bomb as well. He has really interesting concepts about morality, which I thought were pretty cool. But that's what I'm going to share with you from this book. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry it's like turning out really long, but I really wanted to share with you the awesome info that I found out about happiness. Hope you guys liked this video, and I will see you in the next. Bye!